So, did you start it?
My way to check if people are watching.
Excellent. Okay. So, as Agnes mentioned, we're recording it because there are people around the world who are interested in what's going on, and the Pro-Truth Pledge started here. So, for everyone out there, this is the January 28th meeting of the Pro-Truth Pledge. Welcome to the meeting. So, we have some new folks here, so I'm excited to see that. So, the first thing that we're going to do is just have a little bit of an icebreaker to share. Take a minute, no more, to share one thing about the Pro-Truth Pledge that makes you excited. And so we can go around the room. So something that makes me excited today is to see a lot of new faces. I think there are 3 people here that haven't been here before. So that's really exciting, and I'm very pleased to see that.
Should I say my name?
Yeah, introduction as well.
My name's Linda, and I'm from Urbana, and I'm excited to be here because I'm excited that there's a vehicle where we can actually do something to promote truth.
I'm Robin from Urbana as well. My first time here, and I'm excited to learn something that will help promote truth, learn something new. I can participate.
I'm Melissa, and I'm excited to be here because I'm learning how to use science and research and psychology to learn how to actually get people to see past their narrow vision and open their minds maybe to some different ideas.
I'm Gary, and similar to what everyone else said. First off, just my general temperament, I prefer people to be open and direct and honest about where they are, which seems to be a challenge. And then in my business, since I consult in change management, the single biggest issue I always have is lack of honesty. People are always protecting themselves by coming up with coping mechanisms or dodgy words or simply pretending things aren't, the most common form of lying is not saying something. So I've got both a business and a personal interest in the Pro-Truth Pledge.
Thank you. I'm Agnes Vishnevkin. I'm a co-founder of Pro-Truth Pledge and Intentional Insights. Thanks for coming to our house.
Thanks for having us.
Sure. So excited that there's so many people. One thing that makes me excited is how many volunteers are getting involved. And I think that the number of people that are physically present in this room is one sign. It's correlated to the number of people who are getting involved all over the country, even in other countries. And people who are saying they want to do something and they do something, people in this city and other states. So it's very exciting because that's the only way we're going to get momentum, by having volunteer leadership and volunteers just doing stuff and stepping up to high roles, because we don't have any staff in this organization, and even Gleb and I are not getting paid at this time for this work. So that's kind of what it takes. And I'm glad to see that we have such good movement forward with volunteer involvement and leadership.
Not something like getting paid. We're donating a lot of money. I mean, we just donated, what, $2,000? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people are donating and stepping up, and it's good that something's being built.
My turn.
Yes.
My name is Mike Kowalik. I live in Westerville, north side of Columbus. I'm in several political organizations, mainly like Move to Amend, local politics, and basically I've done a lot of knocking on doors for candidates for issues or whatever, and I'm finding out people don't know what's going on out there. And one of the things I think I've run across is you can't preach to a lot of people and pretend like you're doing a high school civics class, because they're worried about paying the bills, where the kids will go to school, and all the politicians only seem to want to, in leadership, only seems to want money, and they're not doing anything. And I'm tired of it, but I don't know what we're going to do about it. When it comes to lying, I always went by the idea that if I made a mistake, I admit it and ask somebody, tell me what I did wrong, right? It's not personal, it's business, okay? So I did that as a teacher for quite a few years. So this is my first meeting, so I'm trying to see what's going on.
Welcome.
All right.
Let us know how we're doing.
End of story.
Similarly.
My name is Duff Dyer. I live in Arlington, and I am excited for the Pro-Truth Pledge because it's about the only positive thing I've found in politics these days. I've been involved with politics too, and not excited about that. Even though I'm working for the side that I think is better, it doesn't seem positive. So I'm excited to be doing something positive. I don't see how this could end up negative.
I'm Janice. I'm from Columbus here, actually just down the street. I'm new here. It's my first meeting, and I'm just excited to be here to meet all of you and learn more about the organization and what y'all are doing here.
Thank you.
I'm going to get some paper and pens if people want to take notes.
Sure. Yes, and that leads me to the point Agnes made about taking notes. So we've had the person who
Oh my God, do I need to be making notes actually? I need to get a computer.
Well, okay, the person who committed to taking notes is not here for the second time in a row. And so I wanted to see if there would be anybody interested in taking up the role of being note taker and secretary for the Pro-Truth Pledge meetings before moving along.
I'm going to have your name available if anyone's interested right now. I jumped in last time. I have more. I have like upstairs.
Would anyone have an interest in taking up a role being secretary for the meetings?
We have a very nice little one.
I do not think I'd be good at that.
I would take some notes, but I would just somebody else who can convince them all. I'm not the greatest writer in the world.
Would you be able to take them on a laptop as we speak?
I mean, to type it?
Yeah.
No, I'd rather use a pen.
You try the pen? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Somebody,
fine too.
I'll see where I
Usually
go.
we just kind of take like a brief, it's not very detailed, like an
Yes.
outline of what was discussed.
Right, okay.
So if you can do that, I'll just take a
All right.
screenshot of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
and then I'll
works
send it
for me.
around.
Introduction for everybody. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, just like introduction, everyone introduce themselves. I would like just write down the list of names of people who were here, so we know
Yes.
for the future.
You could just pass around
Yeah,
a
pass around,
attendance
we'll sign
sheet.
it.
Actually,
Why don't we do that?
don't worry, I'll think
You
of everyone's
want me to
names.
start that? The attendance sheet?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay,
It's good.
it'd be easier.
I'll get more scrap paper upstairs. Excuse me.
Can you get my bottle of
Do you
water?
want like
from my
a nice
room
email or
and,
something like that?
I was gonna
Cards
say,
as well.
That's,
Just
it
your
seems to
personal
make
last name?
sense.
Yeah.
Since you're gonna email the notes. So.
Yeah, we already have.
That's a good idea. Email the notes to everybody.
Yeah, because
Water.
they're putting them on Google Drive. That works out pretty good. You learn how to use Google Drive. And YouTube. I use Zoom. I gotta learn how to use YouTube.
Well, Google Hangouts is nice thing about Google Hangouts is it records right into YouTube. Kind of after you do Google Hangout, you can put it right into YouTube. Very good.
I have here some of my handy dandy business cards. If anybody wants to send me any emails, all right, I'll just throw them in here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You can pass them around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get business cards?
I'm on my way. It's a good workout. This is more of like scrap paper that's you can write on the side.
So, talking about current accomplishments of the Pro-Truth Pledge. So before we go onward, so I want to share something I want you to keep private. This is not yet public information. but this is something
Well, that's going to be,
it's going to be public information.
it's a
later.
test for how many people watches, but it really just
Yes.
happens today.
Right. So it's private information for now. So we've been cultivating a congressperson. We found out that he just signed a pro-truth pledge. So Beto O'Rourke, who is taking on Senator Ted Cruz in Texas. So he's a high-profile congressperson. Not a
What's his name?
Beto O'Rourke,
O'Rourke.
BETO.
Yes.
BETO?
Yes.
Yes, I
Like
got
Robert
emails
or
from
Beto.
his campaign.
Okay, there you go. So
I think I gave $10 once. I keep on.
Of course.
Well, when I heard he was against Ted Cruz, it's no brainer.
So is this guy part of the organization?
No, he took the pro-truth pledge. So we've been working on. He's the highest profile politician who yet took the pro-truth pledge. I've been communicating with his team for about 2-ish months, personally having communications, and finally after that time, he agreed to take the pro-truth pledge. And so this is very
It's a big deal.
really high profile person.
Yeah, we thought it might take us another year, as you know, to
What's
to
the guy's
get
name?
incumbent.
Beto O'Rourke.
But so
BETO,
Mhm.
O' ROURKE.
O apostrophe ROU
U RKE.
RT?
KE.
Okay, O'Rourke.
Rourke, yeah, it's Irish, yeah.
Well, it's nice to get a high-profile
Yes.
campaign to
Yes.
sign on.
He's from Texas?
Yes, so he's taking on Senator Ted
He's
Cruz.
a congress member in El Paso,
So he's
Texas.
an incumbent congressperson. So first person to take the pro-truth pledge.
Which party is he in?
Incumbent.
Democratic. I mean, it's taking on Ted Cruz.
So he took this pledge.
Yes,
Today.
He publicly announced it.
yes.
Okay.
On a Facebook Live video.
We are not announcing it.
Yes, so we're not announcing it yet. We want to get a statement from him that we can share with press when they potentially contact us. And we'll also want to write a press release. So we want to be more prepared before we announce it publicly. And so we want to be able to, for any potential media contacts, to be able to give a statement from him.
So who does these media contacts? You,
Yes. I mean,
locally?
locally, I mean, I've been on Times, Scientific American, Newsweek,
Internationally.
Guardian,
okay.
We've been on TV in Australia.
Australian
one time.
broadcasting networks.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, this is an international project. We have, I mean, we have high-profile signings mainly from the U.S., but in Australia, for example, Peter Singer, if you've heard the name Peter Singer, really prominent philosopher, moral philosopher from Australia. So he signed the pro-truth pledge, and we collaborate with people there as well. Kind of. So there's the University of Sydney has a post-truth initiative, and we are associated with them, have an association with them, for example. So that's something that's really exciting. All right. So the next agenda, so reviewing the agenda, that's the next agenda point, review agenda, revise as needed. So just to let you know about the agenda, this was all in, if you can follow up on your email. This is on the email
Or on the Facebook.
or in the Facebook group.
And also,
But
how much
basically-
time do we have? We have a bit longer agenda this time, so
Yes.
we're trying to stick to the.
Yes, we're generally trying to be more timely. So the first point is to review activities by participants over the last month and plans for the next month, where each person will have, the goal of that is to share accomplishments, support each other, and hold each other accountable and set goals. That's the goal of this agenda point. Then each person will have up to 2 minutes, so take 1 or 2 minutes, no more than that, to share what they plan to do over the last month, what they got accomplished, what they plan to do over the next month, and any help or advice they might need. If this is your first time, this is a good opportunity for you to kind of share what you think you might want to get involved in, especially after you hear people talking about what they got involved in. So let people who already have participated go first, and then we'll go to the new people. So we'll skip people who have not yet gone. And after each person goes, if they request help or advice, And then we can have up to 2 minutes of discussing that. We really want to stick and be to time and time. Sounds good. Then we'll have a presentation from Duff on facilitating effective promotion of the PTP with some role playing. And then we'll go to the end of meeting, which is revising, optimizing meeting flow and stuff like that. Cool. All right. So we'll start with sharing accomplishments, supporting each other, holding each other accountable, and setting goals by talking about what they plan to do, what they did over the last month. So this thing with beta work was a major thing that I was working on personally, so I'll start by myself, of course. And then I got an interview in Newsweek, which was our highest profile yet kind of interview, and that was really good. It was an international interview. It was somebody from the UK Newsweek was interviewing me, so that was really good. And then I was also working on setting up. So for those of you who may not know, I participate in Ohio PTP, but I also run the PTP. I'm one of the leaders of the PTP globally, so most of my activities are global. So I was working on setting up a number of committees, and Gary can talk about the committee that I helping set up there to do outreach to business leaders and professionals, finishing up some strategic planning for the PTP. So how to do things. Our major decision on strategic planning that we've been working on was to use our resources in a way that's we found that over the last 10 months, we got something like 5,000 signatures. So
which is 10 months ago is when Pro Truth Pledge got started. Just to clarify that Intentional Insights is the nonprofit that runs it. It's been around for over 3 years.
Who is?
Intentional Insights is the name of the nonprofit, 501c3, and Pro Truth Pledge Project is one of the projects that now is like the biggest project that's taking up most of the nonprofit's resources. So the Pro Truth Pledge just got started 10 months ago. And so we got like 5,200 signatures in.
Yeah.
Where'd you get these signatures at?
From, let's say from when the Newsweek came out, they had a link to the Pro Truth Pledge, and people went and signed the Pro Truth Pledge.
Oh, so it's not just local.
No, it's international.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Okay.
So from canvassing at events to promoting on social media to
Linda going and getting her husband and Robin to sign.
No, Duff had people at his son's birthday party signing. I mean, it's all signatures. To like taking 2 months to follow up with a prominent politician.
Right. And Gary gave a presentation here locally to a Kiwanis club and got about half of them to take the Pro Truth Pledge.
Nice.
That's another example. So just
Everything.
like that.
And you don't know, my husband was a hard sell.
Good job. Good job. And, Melissa right now is doing some research on business leaders to whom then we'll be reaching out. It's another way of getting Pro Truth Pledge signed. So there are lots of ways, lots of tactics. So my aim is to help people channel themselves into whatever area they feel most comfortable and impactful in. And so we decided to take a little bit more high risk, high reward strategies. So focusing, one of the things that we decided to focus on was getting some media publicity. And for that, we'll need to hire a publicist, which will cost something like $15,000 to $20,000 just in the first 3 months. We'll need to be doing fundraising for that. So that's what I have to share. We had some questions along, but questions, feedback, help.
So who does this media publicity? Or who makes the contacts?
Well,
Anybody?
usually we've had quite a lot of media appearances so far. So Gleb does outreach, and he has folks, mostly volunteers, and a few subcontractors helping with research.
Mm-hmm.
And so pitching a lot of things. He's had published in Time, Dallas Morning News, San Francisco Chronicle just this week, a variety of media. And so we're able to get those, lots of podcasts. Any day there's like, half the podcast conversations going over here in his office.
Yeah, I mean, we had appearance on WSU, on 10 TV, Columbus Dispatch,
Dispatch covered our work several times. But something that we found is that no matter how hard we try, no matter how much success we might be able to achieve, we have not been able to get on TV. We had one TV, national TV. Yeah, we had some local TV and Australian TV. Globe had to spend several on their version of PBS, their public affairs news program. So Gleb spent like 2 weeks for them to figure out where he can go into a studio and they can hook up to Australia to be live on their public affairs program. I had to like from Columbus.
Yeah, it was a satellite.
But we figured that in order to get like significant movement, we need to get a national TV, and it just takes paying someone who has those connections.
So you have a publicity director?
Publicity director. I mean, that's all volunteers. Like I said, I do a lot of this stuff. I coordinate other people who do this stuff. So we don't have a publicity director. We don't have anyone who is in that role.
It would be great if we did.
Yeah, it would be great if we did, but we don't. Right now, we have a number of projects that we would start if we had the right person to fulfill that role. So recently, Gary can talk more about it, but he stepped up to the role of doing outreach to business leaders, to business professionals. That's kind of one. He stepped up. We didn't have anyone doing that, so we couldn't have that project be done. Thank you for the questions. Other questions?
I saw you at the Columbus Metropolitan. It was a really good interview.
Thank you. Yeah.
A lot of good questions were asked at the end of it.
Yeah.
And I saw Gary there also.
Oh, you saw me where I couldn't ask questions?
They cut it off right before you could ask your question.
I mean, I love it.
And thank you for putting that on the Facebook. Like, I keep in touch with you guys by saying what you're doing when you post those things.
Excellent. I'm glad that helps. For you next.
What I accomplished this past month, I attended Gary's speech at the Lions Club. And that was really informative, and he did a really good job. Worked on getting my husband to sign. Got my book together. Got Gleb's book for everyone, The Truth Seeker's Handbook by Gleb. This is the first
We did not ask Linda to plug the book. Just full disclosure.
And I've just been busy, watching videos and trying to feel comfortable, getting my head around everything. I'm looking forward to maybe collaborating with my friend Robin here to just figure out, even on the way here, she thought of some things, some people to contact. Yeah, to brainstorm with her. I want to work on getting my spiel together, and then just start contacting different organizations. Can I come talk to you, please, about the pledge? I think that's it that I can think of.
What kind of organizations you contact? Anybody and anything?
Anybody and anything is what I was thinking.
Is there anybody you don't contact? Politicians, things like this?
No, contact everyone.
Okay.
We find that, the best places to contact are venues that have public presentations. So any political clubs,
Just trying to talk to
conservative or progressive.
Just trying to talk to more than one person at a time.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's more important. So political clubs, progressive or conservative, service clubs, Kiwanis, Lions, Rotaries, those all regularly have speakers. So having speakers are.
Yeah, and we have lots of instructions on our website to do various types of activism, including how to get signatures, how to put together a book, how to give a speech, in a lot of detail, including how early you should get there and what you should bring up as a back, for materials, including how to give to different, if someone's a place of worship has some kind of a public, community kind of place that has public speakers.
I belong to a group in Westville called the Westville Progressive Alliance. Been very active over the last 8 years in politicians. And we invite speakers all the time. So like with this group, somebody should contact them and ask, if you would like to, make a presentation. But we get politicians, state representatives, basically anybody. Most of it has been to deal with getting people out to vote. We register, go around registering people. And I'm sorry, I don't mean take up your time, just give you some idea.
No,
Like
that's fine.
in Westerville, they have an event called Fourth Friday. It runs all summer long, okay? And Westerville Progressive Alliance rents a tent right in the middle of town. And we hand out information. We had voter registration, candidate support, and anybody who wants to participate. And it's downtown, in the evenings, like 4 to 9 o'clock or something.
Is that basically when we used to live in Westerville, the whole town basically,
Yeah,
block
you know
off the
about it.
street.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
used to live
Block
up in
off,
Westerville. It
yeah,
was
block
like
off the street.
thousands of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
and-
Having a good time.
That always seems to be the night I want to go to Thai Grill. Never fails.
So either Gary or Agnes, or would one of you want to coordinate with Michael and
Give a talk
and
there.
give a talk?
Sure. Would you like?
Gary?
Sure.
Can you
Thank you, Gary.
can you get together after the meeting
Sure.
and coordinate? So Michael, you can be the contact person, leadership program director.
Yes, the only thing I would require is like some kind of little description of what you're going to talk about, right? So I can present.
Yeah,
it.
Gary will.
Okay, okay,
The truth. Yeah, that's not a way to get in.
okay.
Okay, but you get together after the meeting.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's perfect. Thank you.
Something that just popped into my mind too when you were saying who do we go to? On the internet, there's a thing called meetups, and I just thought I could look to see what kind of
Meetup.com.
meetups that are around my area,
Mhm.
and then contact them to see if they would be open to that. Would be a
That's
venue
smart.
to
Look,
use.
That's a good way of going about things. I would suggest first looking for service clubs, Lions, Kiwanis, Rotary, and political progressive or conservative clubs. Those typically have speakers, whereas meetups, it is not typical for meetups to have speakers. They usually are just people meeting and hanging out around a certain topic. So you probably get more bang for your buck by going to service clubs,
Civic and
and political clubs. So progressive and conservative, by which I mean, on other progressive end you'll have Democrat and Green. On the conservative end you'll have Libertarian, Republican. Sort of like that. Okay, we'll skip Robin and go to Melissa.
In the last month, I've been working on a couple of the different committees. So I worked with the political targeting committee, and it's basically going through and we're starting with federal races, and I've done Colorado and Ohio, all the federal candidates, and basically going through their websites, emailing them if you can. A lot of them, if you don't live in their district, you can't contact them via email, but page and on their Twitter accounts about the pledge.
Did you post on the page or send them a message? Because sending a message is typically more effective.
I've done both,
Excellent.
but I will definitely
Mhm.
focus on doing messages.
Where'd you do this? What states?
I have done Colorado and Ohio so far.
You did all the races in Colorado and Ohio.
The federal.
That's a lot of work.
And that includes all the candidates, so both incumbents and the candidates who are running.
This is currently just incumbents.
Cool. Okay. So just
Yeah,
for-
Thanks for taking notes. Good handwriting.
the website that I have right now is just for the incumbent,
So the next round.
yes.
yes.
So the next round will be
the
candidates.
candidates.
The candidates. who are-
Although I did give a card to, I think his name is Joe Schiavano. I
Yeah,
went to
still.
the Women's March this last weekend, and there was a woman walking around trying to get people to sign a petition to get him on the ballot for governor. So I gave her, I said, well, I'll
Nice.
sign yours if you take this to it.
Nice.
So I did that, and then
Awesome.
at the committee for Agnes doing business leaders, so looking at Google
Google executives.
and Alphabet. I learned that yes, Alphabet. Google was a
Good.
part of Alphabet. So,
It's good to have detail-oriented people
Yes.
doing the research things.
so doing that too.
Very good.
Thank you. That's really important. So that's kind of just to comment. This is one of the ways that we are trying to use our limited resources of volunteers effectively to kind of find high-profile people. That's how we got Beto O'Rourke to sign the pledge, because high-profile person was done.
You contact regardless of party or anything like that, right?
Correct.
If they're out
Yes,
there, you
regardless.
get a hold of them, right?
All Congress people.
So starting at federal, and then after all the federal candidates have been contacted,
Work way down to the state.
state and down to local.
Yeah, and then to the candidates.
Yes.
Well, first federal candidates, federal incumbent, federal candidates. So
Yeah, we want to make sure that it's fair, because if we asked a senator to sign, so whether or not she signed, we want to go to all the people challenging that person, kind of go down the line.
You get involved with the city, like Franklin County, City of Columbus.
That's the last level.
Yeah, that would
local.
be the.
Do you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We had 3 out of 6 candidates for Columbus City Council sign the pro-truth pledge in this
Before
last
the
election.
election, yeah.
Just like Jonathan Beard's group and people like that. Jonathan Beard, these are people that we've contacted trying to get this redistricting, the Columbus City Council restructured.
No, this was Yes We Can candidates. If we
Oh, yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay.
So Yes We Can, they all approach the pledge, and separately from them,
Kieran Carthorne for city council also took it.
yes, and then Michael Stinciano, who's the current council member, council member pro tem, and the president pro tem, took the approach the pledge as well. And just recently, Cheryl Sullivan, who's the Franklin County treasurer, took the approach the pledge.
Following a personal meeting.
Yeah, I met with her.
It's 4 of us in the WPA Westerville. We're all we ran for the Democratic ward representatives in two elections ago. So we went to these Democrat meetings downtown, and we compared it to a meeting in North Korea, right? Because no one, the power people wouldn't let anybody else talk, so we all resigned. All right, we basically think that Franklin County Democrats are, they're useless. All right, except for their own people. So we did get involved in some of that, and we all backed out because we said this is a waste of time.
I think this is Yes We Can share your opinion, but we try to not get involved with any specific politics. We try to get to all and say, hey, guys, sign the pro-truth pledge.
It's a nonpartisan
Yeah, completely.
Right.
effort.
So
Well, that's what
Kieran Carthorne was a Republican candidate for, and so on.
again, the group in Westville, we're trying to be nonpartisan, but we lean toward Democrats
Yeah.
because the Republicans won't talk to us.
Fair enough. Well, we had some Republicans talking to the people in the pro-truth pledge, so I'm excited about that. Gary,
Okay, let's
couple of
see.
minutes.
The Lions Club presentation when Linda was at, that went well. Now, for its business, and it's been a challenge. That was my second presentation. The first one was for the OSU Kiwanis Club. And on the first one, I'd say it was about 50% political. And then I slid into business/personal considerations regarding the truth. And we got 25%. We got 4 signatures, I think, out of 16. Then I've been thinking about it a lot just as a business person myself. So at the Lions Club, that went much better. And I was quite pleased with it because I'm left leaning myself, but I'm really working to scrub politics. And that was a very right leaning group. And it went over really well. And the focus I used was, as a business person, have you ever been screwed by a subcontractor? And as a parent, have your kids ever been at a distance and they had to get a quote on something and you'd like to be able to, if your daughter's car was wrecked in college and you got 3 quotes from 3 mechanics, if one of those quotes had the pro-truth pledge symbol on it, which quote would you go with? And it's like, whoa. Well, Linda, you were there. And when I spoke, that's actually what I led with. And it was pretty much duck soup from there. It was very, very easy from that point.
I forgot to mention, and maybe you noticed this too, but after he spoke, their language changed. And they were using the terms that he had introduced about
Really?
pro-truth, and they were using fake news. And that was remarkable in just that little time frame that
Mhm.
their whole view changed, and they adopted the terms that you had put out.
Yeah, and I really work to connect with a story. That's why I made it personal in
Mhm.
terms of their kids, or if any of them had businesses, have you ever been screwed by an unscrupulous subcontractor? And I know there were some business people. In fact, Judge
Mhm.
Kane came up afterwards and he complimented me on it.
Great.
The thing that was really good about it was I kept it personal, because what I'm finding is this business approach is extremely difficult. It's much more difficult than the political approach, because with a political approach, you can talk about the body politic and everyone feels kind of safe in the room. But the business/personal approach is just that, it's personal. So people they're a little more concerned because it's a little more direct at them. So there's a desire to just like back off. So, and what I did, if any of you ever want to speak, I also told stories that were appropriate for my personality, my style, and the way I work. I really would encourage you when you speak to talk from your own heart in your own way. Just be consistent with the Pro-Truth Pledge. And they did. They resonated pretty well. In fact, I talked with Kirby afterwards, who's the president, I guess, of the Lions Club. And he has been a regional treasurer and secretary for the Lions Club. And he said he'd be willing to line up other Lions clubs where I could go speak. And one of the things I said is I'd be willing to do some travel. So if you have any Lions clubs that are in smaller areas that feel ignored, and actually I was saying this because there's political significance there, but I was speaking totally from business in terms of the Lions Club. And I haven't gotten back with him, but he said he'd be willing to reach out to them because he knows almost all the Lions clubs. He knows the officers. I guess he's been on the Lions Club forever. I can connect with Kirby to see what other Lions clubs in the area.
That's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Gleb talked about, I took over the chairman or whatever the hell you call it. I'm stuck with the committee on business. And this is really going to be interesting because one of the guys is from the Silicon Valley. And I know from my own business experience, the truth is very difficult because a lot of people in their marketing look for the boundaries and try to blur them. And I'm dying to talk with the guy from the Silicon Valley because I know my own work. When I've been around I actually worked for a startup, and you know the marketing literature. I mean, I'm amazed it doesn't catch on fire when you pick it up. You know, they got 2 features, but they talk about 15 features, and you know it's right around the corner. So by the time we process your order, we should have this online. You know, and then a year later, it's still not online. So the branching out for a national business group is good because I'm trying to find more examples besides your daughter having her car breakdown and the getting screwed by a vendor. And the only way to do it is try to get more business input. So hopefully not only are the individuals that you sent me, Gleb, on the list, which I haven't had a chance to look at yet, but I will. Hopefully they're not just diverse geographically, they're also diverse business-wise. Because I think we need from entrepreneurs just starting up to Fortune 500, because the issue, the truth at the core is the same, but the wrapper changes a lot based on where a business is in its existence, as it's progressing from the garage all the way to the 30th floor at the Huntington or something like that.
Yeah, the people have a lot of diverse experience with different businesses.
And there's a lot of provincialism in terms of, well, I work for a Fortune 500 company. Why are you talking to me as if we only have 100 employees? And the people with only 100 employees, why are you talking to me like we're a Fortune 500 company? It's the provincialism's through. It's like, could you just think a little bit more abstract and stuff like this? That doesn't happen very often because they're highly transactional and they're feeling tremendous pressure just on what they're trying to do in their business right now. Contact in New Albany. This is a real long shot. I could die if I got to Les Wexner and he signed it. So I started talking with a guy in New Albany. I'm running into the same thing already. And I talked to Dublin Chamber of Commerce. Everyone's polite, but no one wants to take a risk of getting connected with something political. The Franklinton Kiwanis, I'm going to be speaking, I think, on the 10th. And then with the humanists in town, I'm talking with Jeff Dubin.
I think also on the
tomorrow. What's that?
I think on the 10th, February 10th.
Okay, it's in my calendar as well.
Okay. Thank you. Last
Excellent.
and
Sure.
Gary's definitely one of the leaders of the ProTruth Pledge.
Awesome.
Okay, Agnes.
I'm next.
Um,
I've been
do you
taking
want
notes to speed it up.
Do you want to mention also the 2 events that we want people
Yeah,
to?
I'm going to mention that. So something that I've been working on. So I'm going to mention a few things I'm working on, and then a few things that are open for involvement or ideas or input. And if you have ideas, we can chat afterwards. Because I know Glib's mindful of the time. So one thing that I've been doing, and before you leave, make sure to grab some business cards.
You can pass them on.
We can pass it around. Grab as many as you want. We have a lot more.
Do you have any more forms?
Give me at least one.
Do you have any more forms?
Forms, we need to print them. My printer died.
Oh, we do have.
Forms? What forms? Please pass them around. Which forms?
I brought extra.
We have them in the. I can get. You.
Okay, you
speak,
get them. So I'll be shopping for a new printer because I decided that black is not a color to print it, but SCMY still works, so fun times. So we have cards that list in really fine print all the 12 behaviors of the pledge. So something that I've been working is I put together about a dozen packages, and I'm sending them to people all around the country if they want some. People can also get a file and print them online themselves. And this is just a nice way, like, have you heard about the ProTruth Pledge? Like, what does it do? It's easy to give a card because not always is it fitting to go with like Duff and Linda have their, it's not always a good fit to have a big one. So we can all carry business cards, take as many as you want. If you're watching, there's a form online, let me know and I'll send you some. Then I'm with, yes.
What's your first name?
Agnes, I'll give you Agnes, AGNES, yes. Then working on a business outreach committee. So this is where we have Melissa and Linda and a few other people helping out with doing research. We want to contact top executives and board members at social media companies like Snapchat, Twitter, Google, Facebook. And we know it's not easy to get to them. So we're trying to get their address, their email, their Facebook, their Twitter, and then we're going to handwrite letters. So we're going to have a letter writing party if someone has good handwriting. We're going to plan it for late February. Stay tuned.
Cards.
Yes.
Will that work overlap with the business committee?
Not really.
No.
This is individual outreach to people who are with social media involvement, so they have separate reasons for taking the ProTruth Pledge and promoting.
So it's kind of like the VP
beneficial.
of marketing at Twitter, like it's probably not going to overlap.
Yeah.
So if someone's interested in research or writing letters, talk to me afterwards.
It doesn't have to be just social media, right?
It doesn't have to be social media. We want to like just start somewhere. We don't want to like start being all over the place. We want to start that somewhere, but then we have celebrities, I don't know, magazine editors. Just we don't want to start by saying we want to look up 20,000 people, influential people. We want to start with some people.
But if we have someone like Gary who's working on a region like Central Ohio, if you wanted research done on businesses that you don't have contacts in, we could do that, right?
Then you can work with Gary. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want like some research done
That's where I
on
was going. Yeah, that would be
specific
good.
corporations in
Yeah.
Columbus.
So you offering yourself as an
Yeah.
awesome research person.
Yes.
That's excellent.
That will help.
So
Aw.
just those are
And I'll
two.
help you if you need help.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are just different things. We're
Those are
trying to
different
break them
things.
up.
So yeah, so where
Divide and
we-
conquer.
what we have is kind of a project, and somebody heads up the project, and there are people who are helping that person on the committee. So they're different. You can be involved in a number of different committees, but these are different
Yeah.
activities.
And as far as getting involved, please do get involved. However, if you feel like you overcommitted or 24 hours after you leave, you feel like that was exciting, but now I don't care about it anymore, absolutely, please let us know. No hurt feelings. Much better than people saying they'll do stuff and never responding to emails. Happens all the time. Please don't be that person. Just let us know you're busy or you change your mind. Totally fine. So now that Beto O'Rourke signed, I'm very excited for getting some media advisories out. At the same time, I am the generic email address that I check. So I anticipate people starting to complain about him immediately. And so it's going to be interesting that not all kinds of lying or untruth are covered by the Pro-Truth Pledge. We're not like the world's police. So I'm just waiting for someone to say that he said it's a beautiful day, but it's really not a beautiful day. Or that, these cookies are overpriced, which I'm like, can you fact check that? Is there scientific consensus on that? No, then. So I'm just getting ready for that. Here and
just to be clear, if what we evaluate is whether the temperature is 70 degrees outside. We don't evaluate. But if somebody says that's hot or cold, opinions may differ on whether it's hot or cold. As long as it's 70 degrees outside, we're good.
If you'd say it's 70 degrees, and then we said, no, it's 75. Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. I took the Pro-Truth Pledge. It's not a fact. The fact is at 75. Great. So I'm just waiting because we've got some pretty outlandish complaints about Peter Singer, who's like a worldwide known kind of intellectual. It's going to be interesting. And now a few things that are open for participation and help in addition to research and writing. There are 2 events coming up, one on in the evening on the 29th and one on the 30th, so Monday and Tuesday night, that are going to be here in Columbus, that are kind of social events. So if you want to come in and kind of mingle with people, if you're extroverted or feeling extroverted, and come up to people and see if they want to take the Pro-Truth Pledge and bring a binder in your handbag. The Monday night will be an event, a fundraiser for Michael Stenziano, who's a Columbus City Council member and the leader of the City Council. He's starting a run for a city auditor, I believe. So it's going to be like a fundraiser. I figure a lot of people might be open to kind of chatting about it, or at least taking a card.
There will be a lot of prominent people like Mayor Ginther, Joyce Beatty.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. So
a bunch of people.
If you see tomorrow night. So if you see them, you want to come up to them and have a bunch of these and have a binder. If they decide yes, don't. That way you don't have to say just go home and go to this website. They never will.
Yes.
Because on a binder they can sign on a paper, and we'll put them on the website later. So one is on Monday night, and one is on Tuesday night.
The more people can go to each, the better.
Yeah, the more people can go to each, the better, because you might not be able to catch it. And then if somebody approaches the same person twice, isn't that great? They will feel like Pro-Truth Pledge is the hottest thing, and you got to sign it. On Tuesday, I will be going to an event, but I'm an introverted person. I don't know how long I'm going to last.
Where's this going to be held?
The one tomorrow, I don't know.
It's going to be
a
Democratic restaurant, Tony's Italian.
We can add this information later on email.
Okay.
The one on.
Give me the phone. I'll look at it.
Yeah.
All right.
In fact, Tuesday, I'm glad I looked at my calendar. I'm presenting in Arlington Tuesday at 6:30.
Great.
Oops, I almost forgot. Yeah.
Tuesday is going to be 5:30 to 8.
Northwest Kiwanis Club.
Great. Awesome.
MCL.
Oh yeah.
So cafeteria.
I thought it started at 4:30, not 6:30. Since it's,
At MCL.
I kept those seniors.
Well, that's why you can get in there at 6:30 with groups.
That's funny. So on Tuesday, it's going to be at North Broadway Methodist Church, I believe, right down the street in Clintonville. It's the Indivisible for Ohio District 12. I'm having like a big event, like anniversary of the resistance, whatever. And so they're going to have a activity fair in the beginning and like a social afterwards. And at the beginning, I'm also like in a resistance choir, so I'll be singing. So I'm like, okay, I'll just come and sing and I'll bring my stuff beforehand. So if anybody wants to come to that fair, can come up to the different activist tables and see if I will be asking if they want a public presentation as well.
So correction.
Correct.
Michael Stenziano's event is on January 30th. They're both on January 30th.
Oh, thank you for correcting.
Sure. So
Importance of
Michael
looking things up.
Stenziano's
They're
event
both.
is on January 30th from 5:30 to 7:30. It's Italian restaurant, 16 W. Beck Street.
16 West Beck.
16 West Beck Street. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes. So Tony's Italian Restaurant, 16 West Beck Street. And this would be a list of names who are going to be there. Andrew Ginther, Mayor Andrew Ginther, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, Judge Michael Coleman, Council Member Elizabeth Brown, City Attorney Zach Klein, a couple of other council.
I should go to that instead.
Whole bunch of council
Is there
members.
admission fee?
There is no admission fee, but I mean, you're expected to make a donation, but you make a $5 donation. You're fine.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
So that would be a
They're
really
both
great
awesome,
opportunity to get some prominent names in the local area to sign the Pro Truth Pledge.
So these are both tomorrow. The last request, it's
Both
yeah,
Tuesday,
both on Tuesday.
not tomorrow.
Both on Tuesday, nothing tomorrow.
I'm going to be out of town, but the next topic on the agenda is how to do that. So we'll be covering.
So you'll be
how to have this
prepared.
conversation.
So still consider coming. Finally, Intentional Insights, which is the nonprofit that's sponsoring this whole project, we have a board of directors, and 2 of them don't live in Ohio. They'll be coming to town for a semi-annual meeting. If anyone has a place for one of them to stay, that's kind of within reasonable distance from here, that would be awesome. Just let me know.
Which one is it? March 16th?
Sorry, March 16th through the 19th. We have someone who kindly offered a space. It's in Westerville. So we do have a place for him to stay. Somebody's going to just rent his own room. But if you have a place a little closer, no pressure. Somebody's very chill, just going to stay for 3 nights. So let me know. That is all. Yeah.
Okay. So recently we had the Pro Truth Pledge Social,
That was fun.
which was fun, and we had a few more people show up for that. Well, I think it was about the same number of people this time.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I think it was 7, 6 or 7, 7 or 8, somewhere in that range, which is designed to help us all get to know each other better. You're welcome to bring guests. It's a social event where it's informal. If they'd like to hear about the Pro Truth Pledge, fine. But if that's not what they want to do, we don't have to do that either. But it does help us get to know each other and be more comfortable with working with each other, which I think is a useful addition. I tried to contact the campaign manager that I met working on a campaign not too long ago. Again, so this is the second attempt without success. So I'll give it a third attempt yet. It's emails. It's not that hard to do. But I figure, maybe he's busy. Maybe if I just catch him at the right time. I said, just phone conversation would be great. And so hopefully that will go someplace.
What's the campaign?
It was a local Arlington candidate for city council.
Office?
Yeah. The public records request that I did get results there. The guy got back to me. His name is David. He said, yeah, just give me a shout when he gave me a date. It's in February. I forget what it is, when everything is solidified. In other words, you can't become a primary candidate after that point. All I have to do is contact him and he'll send me an Excel document.
It's February 7th.
Excellent.
And
That is great.
is it 7? Yeah, that sounds right. And it's going to include every single primary candidate in the state of Ohio. All of them.
Outstanding.
And
That will be
I was
Good
shocked
job.
at how easy that was once I got a hold of the guy.
That will make Melissa's job
Yeah.
much easier.
She can move on to other states. Or we should have like freedom of information requests.
Well, and that's it's a public records thing. If they have it, they
Public
kind of have to
records.
cough it up. So you just have to figure out how to do it.
We have an extra chair for
who
Harry.
who is it that we're supposed to be talking to? So that turned out to be quite easy once I got to the right guy. So that is what I'm going to be doing in the next month. I'm assuming we're going to spread the socials out once a quarter. So we'll talk about the next one
Hold on,
at the next board meeting.
Is there a chair?
Harry.
Oh, you get the nice
Yeah, I'm
chairs.
really sorry I'm late. I actually talked to like 3 times back because I was like,
Don't worry. No worries. No, it happens.
So yeah, we'll get the public records request coming up here pretty
Just move
soon,
it.
and then we'll have the social. We'll talk about the social at the next board meeting.
Do you have socials like every other month or?
We're doing once a quarter.
We're aiming for once a quarter. Yes. The next meeting will be sort of a semi-social, which will be more like it will be the letter writing party here at our house to write letters as part of our business committee.
To whoever we end up
So it's going to
finding.
be a combination of a social and board activity. And then the next one after that will be sometime probably in early March, I'm guessing, which will be a game night at our house.
Okay.
Or somebody else's house if somebody wants to do a game night.
I mean, we'll already opened
Yeah.
our house. So maybe
Next
someone
time.
gets settled in.
no, I'm settled in I was checking the weather so I can know whether it's possible for me to come back to my board. I need to ask somebody for help for that. So
I'm just saying, we'll let you settle in, and I want to hear from people who have been hear so far about potential activities that they might want to get involved in. So, Robin, do you want to? You had some ideas first. Do you want to start?
I'm really good at brainstorming, but I am involved in a lot of stuff already. I tend to get my hands in a lot of pots, so I don't want to overly commit, but I'm very interested. And on the way over here, talking to Linda, some of the ideas that I had for us locally where we live, there's a Peace Alliance in a group. We had a Champaign County Peace Alliance that I was involved in that disbanded, but there's one in Clark County, and I think they would be a nice group of people to talk to. And a couple at our church had a daughter that died at the 9/11 event, and they have put on an Alicia Titus Memorial. Well, they do something every year. They have a scholarship fund. They do activities in September in remembrance. They go around speaking to colleges and schools and stuff about peace and different things, ways they can get involved. And I think they would be a good, that would be a good place to. A resource. And I was sitting here thinking about the Dayton International Peace Museum would also be another good place to maybe have a pledge event, you know, truth pledge thing there. So, you know, I have ideas. And I would like to get involved, but like I said, right tonight, I don't want to overly commit, but I do want to help.
There's absolutely no
So I figure out
such good friends. I mean,
Yeah,
she'll
I'll help her anyway.
Yeah.
But I would probably come back next month, and maybe next month I can figure out where I can squeeze things in.
Yeah,
a little better.
And also, I would say to both you and Linda, and anytime you're here in Columbus, I'd be happy to meet with either one of you just personally, because this is like not the best setting for people who like really love brainstorming, but we can meet like one-on-one, get coffee down the street if you'd like, if you're up for that.
Okay.
I know it's a bit of a drive. I write down all your ideas.
So outreach would be the thing I'd be right at this point would be most interested in helping out in.
You see the little bunch of cards, which is great.
Yeah,
Excellent.
See, I'm already starting committing.
Yeah, well, Linda can help you get one of these binders, and this is an excellent way of just carrying it with you. Duff carries it with him when he travels. He travels around the country. Just people sign up.
Well, one of the things that I've been committed to for 3 or 4 years is going to end in my term will be finished officially in June, as you may estimate. So that will be out of the picture. That'll clear up a little bit of space. So,
Thank you. There's absolutely no call to be committed if you don't want to. This is just kind of an opportunity for you to share about ways you might want to get involved. Michael.
Oh.
And you also want to pass something around.
One of the things that I've started or found, and we try to pass these out, I've come up with a list of common logical fallacies. So every time somebody makes a statement, I go down through this list and find out, is it a sweeping generalization? Is it a faulty analogy? Is it a false dilemma? Is it tu quoque, like who's talking? Is it one of these situations where you attack the messenger rather than the message? Okay. Slippery slope, high blah, blah, blah. So I got a short list here that I kind of try to use as a check-off list. Okay. And the next page is more details with examples in case someone wants to say, gee, what exactly was this person saying? All right. Now, I have references here where I got all this stuff. Of course, I didn't make this stuff up, okay? But I found out it can be kind of handy when you pass this around to people and say, oh, I know what the guy did. He was appealing to ignorance, right? Here's an example, or the faulty analogy, because two things or events are alike, therefore something else is just like them. Well, that's false, okay? The one I actually came up with myself is called, and I use the Latin terminology here, it's called Ventus Trumpius Twitteris. Well, they use all the fancy names here. Like we got
what does it mean?
Petitio Principi, what else? Some of the other names here. And the one that I made up, this Ventus Trumpius Twitteris, is called Damning the Source. It used to be called out homium for those who attended all of it. Right. But this guy here has made this the number one. They should chisel this on some kind of a stone.
Why not just call it a homonym? Why change the name?
Oh, do what?
Why change the name?
Well, I did. Trumpius. Right?
No, I mean, we said it was originally called ad hominem.
Well, what I hominem sometimes called the genetic fallacy. It says indicting the person of the argument rather than the substance of the argument.
And you said you changed the name of that?
No, I made it up. It's a joke. All right.
Oh, okay, got it.
All right,
I
I'm
know.
sorry.
Sorry. Me taking things literally sometimes.
No. This is
I do
bring some lightness to the thing.
That's good.
Uh,
That's great. Sounds
Also,
like good stuff.
well, the other one that somebody said there's somebody attached a disease to it. It's called.
Can we maybe not?
Anyhow, if anybody wants a copy of these, I only made 7. I gave you my email. If you send it to me, I can just download it to you.
You want to pass around your contact information? Is this
I already did.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
great.
And pass around those for people.
Yeah, again, I got these 7. It's only ones. I didn't know how many people would be here, but whoever wants one, take it.
Great.
So I've been using that, and again, the reason I come up with this is obviously what's out there. But one of the other things that I feel stumped about when all these causes, there's so many people doing so many different things, and trying to get somebody to get involved in an organization like this or anything else, it's just tough because everybody's scattered all over the place. And we've done a lot of door knocking, right? Talking to people, one-on-one, toe-to-toe. There's problems out there that I think that when you go to this pledge here, or you're doing the main thing, the other big activity we did is the Citizens United campaign about trying to get that overturned, the unlimited amounts of money. People don't want to be lectured to. Find out. So I don't know how you folks are going to do things if you get down to the street.
Yes, this is one of the things that. So, are there specific ways that you would like to get involved? That you don't have to, but I'm just curious.
Well, I'm trying to find out, what's your strategy and what's your tactics?
Okay. So one of the tactics we would do is canvassing and public presentations. So
It sounds like a great question for during my
absolutely.
Well, I mean, I hear a lot of people talk about, we had a candidate speak to one of the Westerville groups here, and it sounds like listening to somebody at the, remember the old Miss America contest, right? Oh, I'm gonna, clothe the naked, feed the sick. How are you going to do it? Well, I don't know.
How about maybe you and I can separately chat to
right.
give more details?
All right, that's
yeah,
fine.
because
Okay.
Okay.
It's
So-
important questions. We don't want to just rush through something like that.
This is true.
Definitely,
Yeah,
I'll
this is
shoot you an
absolutely
email.
very important questions.
I'm not sure that I
What's
want
that
to get more
thing?
involved at this time. So I'm
Janice?
just
What?
gonna
Oh, here.
kind of sit back
Who?
and absorb
Awesome.
more.
Sounds great. And Harry,
Very good.
you
That's a new guy
worked
came in.
on
Yeah.
the song, and
Yeah.
So just-
So I wrote a song that meant to promote the Pro-Truth Pledge. I mean, I wrote it quite a while before I even heard about the Pro-Truth Pledge, but I thought it would be useful for promoting the Pro-Truth Pledge. It's basically a song about curiosity, like scientific curiosity, basically, and sort of like frames it as something that's like actually meaningful and like real, and like in my opinion, it's like really aesthetically pleasing the way it's written too. And I like got some people to help me with like bringing the song to life, like with instruments, like get someone to sing it, Yeah, and I have other songs that I've written that I have not gotten that done with yet. That might be useful for promoting the Pro-Truth Pledge, and I'm not sure because the person I was had helping with the last one, they're probably not gonna have time to help with any of the other ones. So I'm gonna have to find someone else to help me with the other ones. I think probably. I don't know where I'm gonna start with that.
and you've also working on outreach to OSU.
Yeah, I've been doing that. Yeah, I haven't gotten any response yet. I've sent like a ton of emails, but like probably just need to follow up with some of these organizations a bit more.
Doing what now?
I have been sending a bunch of emails to student organizations at Ohio State.
Oh, okay.
My
Is it
university. I go
Ohio
to.
State?
Yeah, I'm an Ohio State student. Although there was one person that I did reach out to outside of OSU who actually did respond, which is kind of funny. But I think it's the first person I got a response from in all the emails I've sent. But anyways, it's someone who's a podcaster for topics like rationality and critical thinking and stuff. But anyways, Oh, what was his name? Yeah. And I've been like trying to like gather signatures out on High Street too. I actually managed to get. It's been really difficult though because like people are like always like rushing around really busy all the time. But like this like Friday before last, I managed to gather another signature and I like promoted the project to a bunch of people. Although I only managed to get one signature, but at least I like got spread awareness of it.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this is a nice transition to the presentation that Daph is going to make, and we're going
And we're
to.
gonna record
Yeah,
especially
separate.
nicely.
So Daph, would you
Recording?
like standing here?
Oh, no,
Maybe-
yeah, okay. Let the person's recording count. You don't need to move. I just need to make it slower.
I think actually sitting here because what I want to do is have conversations with a couple of people basically. And if you wish to volunteer to have a conversation, that'd be great. You're going to be the receiver, not the giver of the presentation, so it's easy. I just need somebody to interact with on a couple of points.
Okay, so we started the video, we're like,
Oh,
introduce yourself.
is this the thing where like you like help us like learn
How to do the canvassing stuff. Basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you guys want to say
Maybe one of the new people too would be good since they have questions.
Yeah,
Honestly?
absolutely. And that's why I said your question is actually germane to something to bring up here. So I'm Duff Dyer. I'm in sales, which is how I ended up getting this role, sort of. What I do is I teach people how to sell things, and or I have been in the direct sales job for many years. So for the last 5 years, it's been as a trainer, basically. And this is basic sales, and it's super easy sales because you know what you're talking about. You don't have to go out and learn some complicated product. In the interest of quickness, I'm just going to start going through a few basic ideas. One, look the part for wherever you're going. If you're going to the Columbus Metropolitan Club presentation, I'd wear a suit or whatever the female version of that would be, right? I would wear a suit. If you're going to the Pro-Truth March or whatever it was that we went to,
Oh, yeah.
that's more, jeans and tennis shoes. You're going to be marching around the Capitol.
Like the t-shirt of that.
Yeah, and it's a good idea to wear something that identifies who you are. So then.
Okay.
If you're going to a candidate's event, I wouldn't wear this at a candidate's event. I would wear something more appropriate for the candidate's event. It depends on what kind of event it is. So just think about, I want to fit in there. That may seem obvious, but if you're not in sales, you may not even think about that. You may just show up as whoever you are, and then, then you think, oh, geez, I'm not dressed for the occasion. And that's going to make you feel less confident. Confidence is important in sales. So the next thing is, where do you position yourself? Well, that depends. If it's a giant roving networking group, you're probably going to walk around and talk to people. If there are people at booths, in other words, they're with a bunch of booths set up, don't forget you can talk to the people who set up the booths too. Chance to talk to you about whatever they're doing, and then you say, well, that's very interesting. Let me take some information. By the way, have you heard about the Pro-Truth Pledge, which is the generic approach, in my opinion. If you have this with you, I mean, again, depending on the environment, this may not be appropriate. Maybe the business cards are more appropriate. But I'm always going to try to have, if possible, the actual sign-up sheet, because the call to action is sign this. Take a sign-up sheet. You can even fold one up and stick it in your hip pocket. It doesn't have to be pretty, right? It just has to be available when they say, that's really interesting. Great. Why don't you sign it, right? In other words, are you bluffing me? Or are you going to sign this, right? The other thing that comes in here, which for those of you who don't have one yet, is a list of, this is what's on the back of the business cards, except it's a little easier to read, right? And what I'm going to do when I talk to somebody is who wants to play?
I just want to mention that we actually have flyers that go in the pockets that are like especially with the website on it and everything.
That isn't it?
No, that isn't it. It looks almost the same.
I wonder if I have
what Linda
one.
has here in her pocket.
I don't have those.
Okay, I'll make
But it looks
one?
very similar.
Yeah.
And this has the website at the bottom. It's just much smaller.
And it has the little.
I'll get some of these. Yeah. So
You
these
can have that.
these look better.
It's
I
called a
agree.
QR code.
Yeah.
So people with smartphones can just go,
What's it called?
QR code. So people with smartphones can just.
They can, yeah, do the,
It's pretty much same, just looks a little better.
okay. So anyway, I've got this with me. Again,
Great.
doesn't make a huge difference because this does have the information you need on it,
Mhm.
except for that little thing you take a picture of. So who wants to interact? Who's going to role play with me?
I'm gonna play with it.
Okay,
Mike,
great.
Did you want to do the role play?
Yeah. So Michael, I'm going to strike up a conversation of some sort with you. It's easier to do this if you're already talking to somebody. In other words, if the first thing you say to them is, "Have you heard about the Pro-Truth Pledge?" It works, but it's awkward. So the better thing to do is to find some reason to say a few words. It doesn't have to be a 5-minute conversation before you bring it up, but just something to let them hear your voice, see your mannerisms, and feel comfortable with you. Generally speaking, depending on if you have an opportunity to observe people, if they are more dressed up and more rigid, don't stand next to them, don't touch them. That's a very quick version of DISC, which we had a conversation about a while ago. If they are the dominant type personality, don't stand next to them, don't touch them, stand across from them. You can offer to shake their hand, but don't do this. I don't even know if you're a ID, but if that makes him uncomfortable, you don't want to talk to me, right? So, and by the way, people who are in power positions tend to be high dominant personality. So that's just a general easy one. If you can identify the dominant, don't touch them, don't stand next to them, except for a handshake. Don't hug, yeah. So if they're at a booth, if they are presenting their product or whatever they're pitching behind the booth, talk to them about their product. Let them engage with you. It gives you plenty of time to build a rapport with them. And if they're sitting on in the park watching somebody give a speech, which is what I did at the march, is while you guys were talking, I was going around sitting down next to people and saying, "What do you think of this?" And then I had my book with me. I always walked up with it like this. They knew I wasn't hiding anything. Talking to me. Whatever you can do to get them talking, talk about their dog, talk about their kid, whatever's available as a prop to get a conversation going. And then you can very quickly say, what are you here for today or whatever? Well, I'm here about the Pro-Truth Pledge. Have you heard about the Pro-Truth Pledge? And that's your conversation starter. Every sales pitch comes with a conversation starter. In my line of work, it's how are you going to spend this money? Or, how much are you saving annually? There's different ways that you can start a conversation that leads to what you want to talk about. Well, have you heard about the Pro-Truth Pledge? Now, there are two answers to that question, right? Mm-hmm. What would one of those answers be?
No.
Excellent. The other one is shorter on the tree, so let's go with yes first. It's just a short.
Or you want to argue with?
No, all I'm saying is I want to answer the yes first because it's shorter.
I understand.
So if he says yes, I've heard about that, I'd say, oh great, have you signed? Because just because he's heard about it doesn't mean he signed. And maybe I'm the second or third person that's talked to him about this. And maybe I'm the guy that's going to actually get him to sign. Maybe he hasn't done so yet. Maybe he has or hasn't had a chance to look up the website. Maybe the first person to talk to him wasn't as effective as I might be. So the first thing I'm going to say if he says yes is, have you signed? That's great. Have you signed? And if not, if he says no, I said, do you have any questions about it? Because most of the people I've been talking to have been signing. Right? Because in sales, that's other people that I talk to have these concerns. Maybe you would have this concern too, right? So I'm making it not canned, but it's basically a process of a sales conversation that you use with every single sales process. So have they signed? If they haven't signed, do they have questions? What can I, and if you feel comfortable saying so, what can I help you understand to get you to sign? I have the thing right here, you can sign, right? Ask for the sale. Ask for the call to action, so to speak. In other words, what you want is the signature on the page. And just ask them how. Maybe they have an objection. He had one earlier. How are you guys going to pull this off, right? So we'll get to that next. For the other answer is no, I haven't heard about it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this out so he can see that it's about the Pro-Truth Pledge. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to pull one of the summaries out and I'm going to hand it to him. Because it's much more comfortable for him to look at that than me while I'm talking. If he doesn't have to engage with me socially, he's more likely to actually listen to me. Because if I'm looking at you in the eyes and I'm talking, you're thinking about nodding and smiling at me, not what I'm saying, right? So I'm going to hand him that, and I'm going to let him, and then I'm going to let him listen to me. And I'm going to say, basically, the Pro-Truth Pledge, a movement to attempt to return honesty, just basic honesty, to media and politics. And what we're trying to do is start at the grassroots with normal, everyday folks like you and me. And if we can get enough of us to sign the pledge and to follow these tenets and to be honest in our just everyday activities, which honestly, I already am, and I assume you already are. This isn't really hard. It's not like you're going to have to go out of your way to do this. I don't really know that. But it makes him feel comfortable and not threatened for me to assume it. Except not, it has to be a spoken assumption, right? I assume you're an honest guy, which makes him think, oh, great, he's not attacking me for dishonesty. It's a big deal in what we're talking about because everybody feels attacked these days politically, right? So I assume you're already doing these things. What we're trying to do is to get those folks like you and me that are already doing these things to sign up and say, I want to do these things. I want other people to do these things. And I want my media and my political representatives to do these things too, to be honest. Right? Mm-hmm. And if we can get enough people, I don't know what political district you are, but let's say you're District 12. If we can get enough people in District 12 to sign up, we can take that list of people. Here's 5,000 names in your area. Wouldn't it be nice to have 5,000 in one district? That would be effective, right? That's the goal. If we can take 5,000 names or whatever number to a candidate, whether it's an incumbent or a challenger, and say, we have this many people that want you to sign this pledge. These are people that are your constituents, and they want you to, I can't say voters, because we don't really know that. I never asked him if he was a voter, did I? But we can say, these are your constituents, and they want you to sign this pledge. Part of them signing the pledge was they want you to sign the pledge. They want you to be honest and truthful. That's the leverage we're trying to put in place. And I think that kind of answers your question earlier, because that's it. It's really that simple. Now, there's lots of little mechanisms for making it happen, and different ways to get people to sign, and different ways to get the attention of the politicians and the media that we're trying to leverage. But essentially, all we're trying to do is get enough people to sign that make the politicians pay attention, because I am no political expert, but I've heard before there are only two things politicians care about: money and votes. And we may think that money is more important, but that's not what actually gets them in office. It's the votes. And if we can get enough people in their district that say they want to be honest, maybe we can actually make them honest. Now, I'm going to go straight to the most common objection I get, and I'm going to bring it up so he doesn't have to. There is a rule in sales: don't bring up an objection your client doesn't have, because then you just handed him an objection, right? That maybe he hadn't even thought of. But if he doesn't think of it now, he's going to think of it, because this is a really easy one. Well, how are you going to deal with somebody who lies? Or, at the risk of being political, the most common way I hear that voiced is, well, you're never going to get Donald Trump to sign this.
Okay.
Right? And I say, no, we don't think that's going to happen. What we'd like to do is return enough honest culture to the conversation that Donald Trump doesn't get elected. Maybe somebody that is more honest, that represents his views, will get elected.
But then you have to be careful who you're talking to when you say that, because I know people that have voted for Trump and they're still standing by him regardless.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get them to sign myself, but
that conversation you have to be careful who you're having it with.
Yeah, I agree.
I like what you said about getting someone who has his same views.
I'm not saying that the views are the problem.
Right.
I'm saying that the dishonesty is the problem.
Also, they wouldn't frame the question the way you'll never get Donald Trump to sign.
If they're a supporter of Donald Trump, they wouldn't have said it that way.
and we have supporters of Donald Trump to sign.
Right.
Okay.
So this is just kind of like the most basic objections, and we can have a laundry list of objections from different types of political leanings and different kinds of stuff, or pragmatic stuff.
Right.
But that's definitely very common, and like we're going to adopt the same.
So what you're looking to do is get across how we're not trying to get the existing framework to change. I'm trying to think of the. You can't get a something to change its colors. There's a saying, and I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Can't get a leopard to change its stripes.
That's it. Leopard to change its stripes. Thank you. A tiger. Yeah, leopards have spots. Don't they? Whatever. You get the idea. You're not going to change the guys that are already in there and already have lied so many times. This isn't going to work for them as a political leverage point with the voters. But you can get those people out of office and get people in who are honest, regardless of their political perspective. Right?
Hopefully.
Now, I'm going to bring that up right off the bat because, again, that's the most common objection I've heard. It's easy to answer. Now, the other thing is I'm going to say at that point is, you know, I have a sign-up sheet right here. What do you think of this? I'm pointing out, I have a sign-up sheet right here. This is where I'm kind of headed. What do you think of this? Because I want to know what's in between him and signing this, right? So go ahead, and this is for all of you. I'll start with you because you had. Did I answer your objection from earlier? Your question about how are we going to make this work? What's the mechanism for making people honest in politics and media? Or was that not quite the question?
That was, well, how are you going to fight unlimited amounts of money that comes out of the Citizens United decision from SCOTUS, all right? That is somebody, I believe it was Herr Goebbels said the people who scream the most will usually win the argument.
If you say a lie enough times, loud enough,
they will
believe
it. And how much money will it take to get this candidate to come around? When you can't find out how much money is being spent for this guy, right? Because I've asked candidates before, well, how much money was donated to you? That's a secret.
Mm-hmm. As is who gave it to him.
Right. And I asked one candidate recently as how much it's going to take to win this office. It was a local, to get Tiberi's office up there. He said it'll take $1 million. One minor office, right? $1 million. Somebody's going to spend that amount of money. Are you going to spend that amount of money on these candidates?
We don't know that we're going to have to spend that kind of money. My answer, as just a guy collecting signatures, my approach to that, I always try to distance myself from the leadership in the organization when I answer these questions. I do not want to represent the leadership of the organization. If they want really super technical questions, I want to put them in contact with the leadership of the organization. Because if he's asking good questions and he likes the answers, he might end up at this table, right? So I'm always going to say, you know, as a guy out here collecting signatures, not leadership of the organization, the way I understand it is trying to get the grassroots push. If we remember, it's media and politicians. If we can get enough people pushing from the bottom up, we can get the media to do things. And that doesn't cost any money at all necessarily. If their constituents want to hear this, they want the eyeballs and the ears on their advertisements, they're going to report it, right? So we're trying to get attention by having a mass movement. That's why we need guys like you to sign. That's a soft close, by the way. That's why we need guys like you to sign, so that we can have a lot of people involved. You don't have to have all these techniques that I've learned over the last 30 years. You just have to have a conversation. And I make it sound easy. I hear this all the time in training. Well, you make it sound easy. I went and tried it. It wasn't that easy. No, but if you do it a bunch of times, it gets easy. The trick in sales is not feeling bad about yourself when somebody doesn't sign or doesn't buy or whatever. You just have to keep doing it. And before you know it, you're pretty good at it. It doesn't take very long. Do you have enough?
Can I add something to it?
Yeah.
A good friend of mine's been a sales rep for 40 years. He uses the feel, felt, found approach. Mm-hmm. I know how you feel, right? I felt that way before also, but I have found out that, bang, there's your closing argument. Okay?
And you can use the same feel, felt, found approach with other people that I've talked to. I know how you feel. Other people I've talked to have felt that as well. Or better yet, other people who have signed have felt that as well. Mm-hmm. I just thought about correcting that in my head as I went along. Because they found that. It doesn't, one of the things that, oh, that's never going to work. That's an objection that I get. Okay, why not? Well, you're never going to get it's kind of the stuff he was talking about is usually the answer. And I say, well, let me ask you this. Going to make any difference to you to put your name behind us and let us try to push? If we don't try, it's not going to work, right? If we don't even try, there's no way it's going to work. But we're going to try, and all we need is your name to add to the list. That guy who says it's never going to work, it's going to be hard to get at this table. So now all I'm trying to do is get him to sign, right? Just let us use your name. Be on the list. What other objections?
Sorry. Also, I would probably add that maybe money, while it's like while it does have a big impact in things sometimes, it's not the only factor.
Right. You could do you could say what I said earlier, which was there's two things politicians care about. It's money and votes. And that's how grassroots movements make things happen in politics, is there's votes behind it, right?
Right. And what I was trying to say is that, like, even if somebody spends all $1 million to keep some guy in office, by pumping out like advertising and propaganda or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean it'll work if people are learning to not trust that sort of thing, that sort of stuff as much,
People spend a lot of money to get into office, way more than their opponents, and they lose all the time.
Right. and I would also say that exactly, yeah, that, and also if money dominated everything all the time, then things would look really different, I think, because then our information that we were getting would not be able to be relied upon at all. Because
let's get a lot of objections. I apologize, we're running short on time.
Sorry, it's okay. So just one thing I want to point out, Harry. You want to really avoid getting into an argument.
Oh, right.
Don't argue.
So what you're doing right now is getting into an argument. You never want to do that.
Gotcha.
You want to steer back.
Focus always on the sale.
Right.
The easiest way to think about it is, what's the shortest point or conversation that I can go from to him signing?
Right.
Don't get into a big argument about how the world works or how politicians think. It's the easiest one to answer for that one is, all we really need is more people. If we can get enough people, and we can go to a politician, whether they're an incumbent or a candidate, and say, we have all these people in your district that are your constituents that want you to be honest, and they signed this, and part of signing it is they want you to sign it. You'll get their attention, or you won't, but their other guy will.
Do you give these out?
Sure. I give these out.
They have the same information?
Yeah,
it's the same
I
thing.
see that. But this is kind of intimidating. I think, wow, gee, there's a lot of information on here. This here I can kind of take with me.
It's whatever works.
Yeah,
Okay.
give them both.
Just a little easier to read because
Yeah,
it's
that's what I was
bigger.
thinking.
Yeah.
What do they call it?
I think it's easier to read.
Oh, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
The old elevator.
But again, and if I have this with me, I'm going to hand them this probably. You can hand them both. You can stick cards in there too. But either way, let's go back to objections.
On the internet, I promoted the Pro-Truth Pledge in the comments section, and I got a response from a guy who said, I don't do pledges. I don't give pledges. And this was weeks ago.
Did you get any more information about what he meant by that? Because I have one idea, because there's an objection I've gotten, but I don't want to answer it if that's not it.
I don't. It was weeks ago, and I don't remember.
Because I don't know what I don't
verbiage.
do pledges means.
It was
so
very
I would ask him.
negative. He was very negative about pledges.
Sounds like money.
Let me give you a couple of options. Let's try to interpret that. The first thing I would do in that scenario is says, really, that's interesting. What do you mean? In other words, show interest in the person. And then don't just ask them, what do you mean? Because you got to put tone into text, right? And if you're in person, it doesn't matter. You still want to put, that's very interesting. What do you mean? I don't quite understand what that means. Now, I'll give you an interpretation that I got while at the Secular Student Alliance event, which is, I don't want to put a litmus test on my candidates. In other words, if my candidate tells a lie, I don't want to not have to not vote for him if I still think he's a better candidate than the other guy, which is an assumption that I think is incorrect. If my candidate tells a lie, And I still think that candidate's more likely to do what I want him to do than the other guy. I'm still going to vote for him. I just wish they hadn't told the lie, and I'm going to give him a hard time about that. Which leads to, well, how are you going to give him a hard time about that? Are we just going to call him out in public? No. So you go through you explain the process of we're going to contact the candidate behind the scenes and ask them.
Yeah, I didn't know that at the time. But
Yeah,
I've done
it's
a
one
lot
of those things you
research
kind of have
and
to
found out that there was a
ease into
process.
understanding how the process
I
works.
just
Right?
want to make sure that on our website, if you go to protruthpledge.org and scroll to the bottom, there's an FAQ which is extraordinarily detailed. And if you happen to have the time, that will give you all the answers. Also in the binder, there's one.
I have
So any
the
answer
regular
about how
FAQ
any
here.
of this works or is enforced, it's very, very detailed. Or you can always ask Gleb or I or Duff or someone else who knows. And at that point,
There's a video on YouTube
Yeah.
that I watched that you went through.
yeah, we have
that.
lots of resources and
If you have
how
the-
things actually work.
If you have the opportunity to canvass with another person, do it. And take turns. One person talks to one person, the other person listens. And then you flip sides. And you can also give advice afterwards. Constructive criticism, of course. When you said that, I could see your body language shifted, whatever. So maybe this way would be a better way to say it. Work with each other to build your capabilities, your practice, right? But the litmus test one, I thought was a very good objection. So you just tell them you can still vote for him. you don't have to. Taking the pledge doesn't say you can't vote for somebody who tells a lie. It just says you wish they hadn't, and you're trying to get them not to. That's what we're trying to do here. So, what are their objections? If you can think of an objection, that's the easiest way for me to do this.
Well, the one you mentioned about, well, what happens if you catch somebody lying?
Okay.
And
So
then you go into the process of.
yeah, now they took the pro-truth pledge. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to them behind the scenes. We don't want to out the person who took the pro-truth pledge for telling a lie when maybe they didn't even realize it was a lie. So we're going to go to them behind the scenes and we're going to say, here's a bunch of information about this thing you said, and this is why we think that's not true. And by the way, they can come back and convince us we're wrong. There's no true arbiter of truth, right? We're going to go back and forth. We're going to go to the sources that we think are the most expert. We're going to, and there's mechanisms for this. And we're going to have a conversation with that person. And in the end, we're either going to say, no, we think you lied, and they're going to take it back, or we're going to say publicly, I'm sorry, we think you lied. This was something you've been called out on this. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, they're going to probably retract their pledge. I'm going to say, yeah, I don't want to be a part of that anymore, right? Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've done is I've said this is a supportive activity, not a gotcha.
We're trying to support honesty, yes.
Right, because I've been asked, I was asked, is this a gotcha? I said, no, there's basically three components. You commit to telling the truth. If you can't cite your sources or back it up, you state it as your opinion. And the third component is if you make a mistake, you retract. There's no gotcha component to this, because someone asked me, well, how much is this like Grover Norquist and his no tax increase, the litmus test? And I said, it's not at all. This is just about society calming down by everyone committing to be more honest with each other.
And we're hoping the politicians will use being a signer in good standing, so to speak, as a pitch point. I took the pro-truth pledge.
I have an objection. So like I'm married to Gleb here, and he sometimes goes to a business meeting and puts on a suit and he says, how do I look? Before he has to go out the door. And whether or not I agree with Ty's choices, I can't afford, at this point, do I need to affect my relationship and make him late and upset and say that that tie really clashes with your outfit? Because I would have no part of signing this pledge, because having a relationship is just way too much work. And your pledge is pretty stupid if I have to do that.
Well,
so that's my
while I'm sure Gleb would appreciate the advice when he is wearing a horrific tie with his suit, I certainly understand what you're saying. We're not talking about little white lies that help our relationships along. We're talking about obvious mistruths. Let me pick one that does have some political weight on it and say, if you are saying that anthropogenic climate change is not a thing, that's going to be a problem for us, right? So you can say we shouldn't do anything about it. Well, that's an opinion. We're not talking about opinions. And by the way, he asked you for your opinion. We're talking about things that we can demonstrably prove true or false. And that's really it. And that's an excellent objection.
And I would also add that it only relates to public speech. It doesn't relate to if we're like about the dinner, around the dinner table, if we're having a private business meeting that will never get out, which might help some folks in the business community sign it.
Yep.
That like if your company puts something that's like, you know, climate change is not happening. But if we're standing over coffee at a water cooler, it's not public speech. So it only applies to public speech. And it's really quite limited. We want people to feel like it's exciting because we're fighting for honesty and truth and we're fighting lies. But we're only doing a subset of things just to make sure it's doable and feasible. We're not doing like, we're not running after everything.
Another version of that
Yeah.
I've heard is, do I have to call out my friends on Facebook? And the answer is no, you don't have to. I do, but I have fewer friends because of it. I'm okay with that, but you don't have to do that.
What I tell people to do is what I do is, well, on the days I choose to be adult, ask, what led you to that statement? Can you tell me what backs it?
That's an excellent way to do it.
And I got to tell you, it works extremely well because what happens routinely is those who are on the sidelines during the conversation, they'll start jumping in when they see, oh, there's actually a way out of this to deal with it. And they'll say, yeah, what did lead you to say that? And I've had that happen more than once. And that's all you got to say is, what led you to this statement? What backs it up? That's it.
So a common objection you get from conservatives is this an anti-Trump thing?
No, it's nonpartisan. We're just trying to return truth and honesty to both media, which, by the way, is somewhat more effective in talking to conservatives, I think, because they have a serious issue with media. So I say both media and politicians. We want honesty. It doesn't matter if we disagree. We just have to agree on a set of facts before we can move forward on what needs to be done.
Yeah, and just one way that I think about it, pro-facts.
Mhm.
Sometimes I try to make it funny. That's kind of the way I get out of awkward situations around my social anxiety. I say, it's kind of like a pro-facts pledge. You're like, okay, facts are good.
Yeah.
But we didn't call it the pro-facts pledge because it would not be exciting, which is true. But if you go through all the fine print, it's really just mainly focuses on the facts. The difference between opinions, like your shirt looks great or not, it's an opinion. So if we focus that it's on facts, you know, it kind of narrows things down sometimes and helps in some situations.
One thing I noticed when people were signing for his presentation, they went to fill out the signing, and they said, "Why do you need my address?"
That's an excellent segue into the signature portion, which I'm going to watch, and I'm going to hand them the pen, and I'm going to hold the document if we're standing, so that they don't have to. They're going to hold it also, but I'm going to help them hold it steady. If the two of us are holding it, it's more likely that they're going to have an easy time doing it. And they're going to get date. Oh, that's really easy, right? Name. I know my name. Email. Why do you want my email address? Well, we need to be able to get in contact with you if we can't read your name or your address. We need your address so we can tell what political districts you're in, right? And we need your email address in case we can't read this, which is also why we need your phone number. Now, you can choose not to be contacted, but it's not. If I'm at a Democratic event, I always say, we're not like the Ohio Democratic Party. You're not going to get 6 emails a day from us. I can speak from experience on that.
Yes.
I haven't been to a Republican event, but I probably could come up with the same kind of thing, right? I mean, surely the Republican Party sends out lots of emails just like the Democrats. So, I'm going to say that we're not like a political party. We're not going to be emailing you constantly. But we have a newsletter. We have important things that are happening that we'd like you to know about. Maybe somebody interesting signs. You can go to our Facebook page. I'm going to talk about the social media at this point because that's not on here. But you can go to the Facebook page and you can see what's going on and who's signing, and interesting stuff is happening here. This is a happening organization. So does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're going to guarantee me that this list that you're collecting of all of us signers, it will never be sold, given out, or exchanged with somebody else without my knowledge.
Well, it's public.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you a yes or no. Are you going to share this information with somebody else?
I'm answering carefully so that I'm sure that I'm not lying to you, because what I want to know, what I want you to know is this is going to be on a website. It's public information.
Oh, so it is on a website.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Not the address.
See, I can be wrong.
Just the name, right?
Just your name and where you live, not your address, but
Okay.
the city, and your social media if you give social media. So if you sign the website, you can give social media, let's say your Facebook page or Twitter or something.
Excellent distinction.
So you're not going to share this with anybody?
No.
No.
He said no.
No.
Yeah, okay.
I said yes.
I see.
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, we're sharing. We have to have it out there to prove that we have these people.
Let me correct myself. We will be sharing this with politicians who will be say, do you really have my district? How many people from my district do you have? And then we give them a list saying, here are the people from your district, name, no email, address. So that will be...
So that they can confirm that.
Yes, so they can confirm that. So for example, the way we get Michael Stenziano to sign was the way we sent him, here are the number of people in Columbus who have signed the Pro-Truth Pledge, here are their addresses without their phones or emails.
I mean, that's the same way it works for like petitions in general.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how politicians are able to know that their constituents are actually what their constituents actually want, and it's not just someone like putting a bunch of names on paper without actually living.
I know that. So
we're not going to sell this to P&G, for instance.
Right. Okay. So the answer to that question is yes, it will be shared with politicians. So to verify that this is
excellent correction. I'm glad to know
that. Constituents.
I have another. This sounds like it's pretty political, and I'm not into politics. I don't think I'm going to.
What do you mean by that?
Just that it sounds like you're only interested in politicians.
Well, we want everybody to be honest. We have to start at the grassroots, and you signing hopefully will motivate you. I'll be honest. I find the fact that I've signed this makes me think much harder about what I say in social media, for instance. So in that sense, it's making me more honest or more careful about being correct is the way I would put it. And we want media and politicians. Mm-hmm. That's kind of our upward target is media and politicians, but really it's about everybody. We have to start at the grassroots level. So
okay, you talked me into it.
She's one of those friendly role players.
What were your husband's objections?
Just FYI, we did a study at Ohio State which showed that people who signed the Pro-Truth Pledge, private citizens, are actually quite a bit more likely to be honest in social media sharing.
And fact check.
Yes, fact check stuff.
Think
like that.
before they share. Think before you share.
Just the last thing that I just said about it's. It sounds like you're only interested in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a lot of the ones that I brought forth are what I heard from him.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of power do you have if somebody does lie? Who's checking up on that? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times this would be in the car, and I would have just read something that Gleb had posted or whatever, and I'm telling him about it. And he asked me a question, and I'm like, I don't know, but I'm going to research it and I can get back to you. I'm new at this. So that's helped me learn a lot.
That's an excellent answer, particularly if you have the opportunity to get back to people, if it's somebody you know. The easiest thing to do is to say, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But there's smart people that have worked on this. I'll bet you they have an answer. I'll go find it and I'll get it for you.
Mm-hmm. And you signed, so that was good.
You were.
Or us.
You can also, in this context, or if you're in Columbus, you might say, well, there's a reason that, the Columbus council member, Michael Stenziano, President Pro Tem, signed it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, by the way, kind of leads to an objection that we hadn't talked about, which I almost forgot about, which is, well, who has signed this so far? Mm-hmm. And you can talk about what are we, 5,200 now? Okay, so
5335.
5,300
I check off.
Just round off. So we're up to 5,300 people plus, and I carry at the beginning of this, which probably needs updating at this point, a list of people who you might even know.
Yeah, so Duff was reaching out to secular leaders and organizations earlier onward. So,
Is that like custom list?
yeah, so this is a
Secular
custom.
That's the
list.
custom list. Yeah, I think we should have, I assume we do have, and I have not asked this question yet, but just a generic list of big names.
We do kind of in the emails, but we can create something.
And I
That's
think
the
also
point.
because like email, like it's so regional,
Mhm.
like kind of in the city.
Well,
of Columbus,
here's
they
well,
say
here's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I don't mind printing 3 or 4 pages. In fact, that looks better when I pull it out. If there's 3 or 4 pages of big name people, I also don't mind handing somebody who may not like Steven Pinker, or to pick a really crazy name like Richard Dawkins. Let's say he signed, but most
Or a
people
lot of people. hate
most people don't even know who he is. So, you know, when it comes right down to it, a lot of the names that have signed that might be, you know, somebody, if they knew who they were, it was going to be a problem for them. They don't know who they are anyway. So what I want is a whole bunch of names. And what I want them to do is skim down the list and go, oh, wait, I know that guy. Yay. You know, I want them to find the one that they do
That's a
think
good
is good.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be locally.
And by the way, if they do think that the guy that's on the list that they recognize that they disagree with, that's good that he's on the list, right? Call him out if he lies. That's what we're for. We're here to help you with that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
This list that, or, you know, this petition, this list that you have these signed up. Okay. Do these people, do you have anything on that list that shows what organization they may belong to? I'm thinking of giving this here list out here to people I know, and they look at the very top and says the Atheist Alliance of America. All right.
Yeah, remember that was a specialized list.
Oh, you didn't tell me.
This-
That's what I wanted to know.
Right. This was that was targeting secular groups, so secular atheist groups, which is why that was created for.
Right.
those
Okay,
sorts of-
because I would be worried to say, my God, I mean, I know people would go berserk if they saw their names on this, right? So you're filtering it out, some of these names that you're not just going to put out here to say,
Yes.
we're going to show you a cross section of the people, you know, like the pick any kind of off the wall group that may, you know, upset people. You know, their names, they don't want to have the name on there. Okay.
Sure. Yes, we're going to.
So which gets back to my question is, you're going to publish my name someplace, right? So you did
Those
publish.
people agreed to have their names published.
Did everybody that signed this agree to have their names
Yes.
published?
Yeah.
They
That's
did.
part of
Well,
the signature.
Okay.
That and
Okay.
these people we specially contacted.
Okay. All right. I didn't know that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is.
They're public figures.
Okay.
And
All right.
we ask them when we're doing, if you're canvassing, by the way, ask them, hey, you're a public figure, if you know they are. If they're a candidate, if they're a media personality, if they're in an organization that their name might be recognized, ask them, hey, you're a public figure. Can we contact you about having you on the public figures list? And most of the candidates say yes automatically, the 2 that I've gotten to sign. But then, you know, that's a good thing for them to be on that list. And hopefully the other people want their organization more known and to get the word out, right? And who wouldn't want to be associating their organization with truth? So yeah, most of those people step right up and they're like, yeah, I'm a public figure. That's what I do. Go ahead and put me on the list. Call
I
me.
just
About
thought of another objection.
Yes.
I'm already honest. Why do I need to sign something to show that I'm honest?
it. That's an excellent point. What we really need is honest people like you to put your name on the list so we can go use that as leverage to get the people who aren't always honest to be honest.
You know what I came up with? That we're a grassroots organization, and there's power in numbers.
Exactly.
And the more people that we can get to sign, the more power we'll have to promote truth.
Well, and I'm kind of adding mine on to what I've said before. Yes, that's the mechanism. And essentially the answer to that is explain the mechanism and explain that we need your name to create that mass effect.
I like that story about the environmental woman in the 60s.
Oh, Rachel Carson.
Yeah, when you tell that one.
Other objections where we've run over time, and I apologize, but
That's a good stuff. Other objections?
feel free to email me or contact me if you have.
This is like the role playing stuff, right?
Mhm.
So one of the common objections I've heard is, well, maybe it's not super common, but like when people like think of it, like it's like often difficult for some people to know how to answer it. So they'll ask things like, the last thing I'm saying, like, well, how do you know that the scientific consensus is reliable, or like, how do you know the fact checkers are being honest?
That's an excellent question. I mean, when it comes right down to it, we have to trust in the scientific process. We go to the relevant experts, and if we're having a conversation with somebody who is disagreeing with us on this point, they get to tell us why they're a set of experts, and in the end, we're going to have to come to a conclusion of some sort. But it really isn't as hard as people make it out to be.
It's why there's peer review. What makes something scientific is one person can't say it.
Which is true, but I don't want to get too detailed into how science works.
I thought you were getting too complicated.
You did? Okay, fair enough.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's simpler to say it only makes it into science if a bunch of people repeat it.
Yeah, and also I would also point out that I actually wrote a blog post that sort of comprehensively answered that question. But it's called Boolean Value Beliefs versus Probabilistic Beliefs and the Relationship to the Accountability of Scientists and Fact Checkers. And it goes into detail, like the answer to that question.
Sure. Let me argue with you a little bit on that. How science works to answer that objection. Because what is their underlying concern? Their underlying concern isn't whether or not science works. They think science works, but they think science can be scientific process, scientific arguments can be used against their interests. And what we want to say is that their interests will have a voice in the process. That's my personal opinion of this. In other words, in the end, in this process, we're going to be having a conversation with the person who's been called out. And that's what I'm trying to get across. I don't want to get into how science works. Maybe they are smarter about how science works than I am. I'm in sales. I'm a science buff, but I'm in sales. I don't necessarily know all the answers to that. What I do know is how this process works, and that's what I want to talk about. So I'm going to avoid getting into discussing peer review. I may have even gotten in more depth than I should have in answering it the first time. But my point is, what you really want to do is, what is their concern? And how? And I think in that scenario, that objection, their concern is generally going to be that their side of the argument is going to have science used against it unfairly. And the way that happens all the time is it's not a conversation. It's a call out. We live in a call out culture these days.
What's a call out? Give me a definition of a call out.
Somebody yelling out to the world, that guy lied, instead of having a conversation with you about it. Usually through social media or the media.
What percent? So do we have any like statistics, like what percentage of people like distrust scientific consensus?
Let's leave it.
Yeah.
I apologize, but that's off track for this.
So your point, Duff, is for the person objecting, your voice isn't going to get crushed. It's going to be part of the overall conversation.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Is that the person that we're talking to about what we think is a lie, we're having a conversation with them. Opportunity to say no, it's not, and if it's not, they can convince us it's not. They can give us. Science gets new information all the time.
It could be just that they've received misinformation also, and they don't realize that it's not true.
Or that we took what they said differently than they did. They meant it. Yeah.
Well, unless you know for sure that they deliberately lied.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using the temperature thing, if it's 75 out and you're saying it's 70, that's an obvious one. A lot of these things are not that simple.
For the purpose of convincing them to sign, you want to make it as simple as possible.
Right. And always lead back to, that's why we need your help. Here's the thing we want you to sign.
Do you ever print off the list of the fact-checking sites to hand out to people?
I have the frequently asked questions in here.
Are there any other objections?
There's more question. Are you dancing around libel and slander here in some cases?
I believe both of those, not a lawyer, but I listened to Opening Arguments podcast. I stayed in the Holiday Inn Express last night. If I'm not mistaken, it has to be factually incorrect for it to qualify for either one of those things. If you say something about somebody, it is factually true.
You can make a mistake, like we've heard discussed here. You did sue you for libel. You said, "Oh, I made a mistake."
Right.
But somebody could intentionally mislead you, which by saying something that Pat Tiberi's a liar because such and such and so and so. Wow. Man, that's
And we're not just going to go on the reporters.
that's dangerous.
The person who reports its facts. We're going to go do our own research too.
I don't think
Okay.
it would come across, I mean, if somebody, you don't say that they're a liar.
Yeah, it's
Do you?
not quite that
I mean,
That's
simple.
why I said that.
They've broken the
misinformation
pro-truth
sounds like-
pledge, I think is the way
Right,
you
Yeah.
guys say it,
broken the
right?
pro-truth
Yes,
pledge.
it's a violation of
Yeah.
the pro-truth.
Violation,
Yeah.
yes.
It's a violation.
So we're not yelling out liar.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I'm using colloquialism there, but
gentle.
that's probably much. You should practice those
Gentle.
phrases. I'm going to practice that phrase.
It's a
Violation of the
It's a
pro-truth
good
pledge.
point, because what I run into is people's inability to distinguish between an objective failure of fact versus an argument on homing them.
Mhm.
So rather than saying that's incorrect, it's you're a lying bastard.
yes.
Right.
And
Yes.
what I'm noticing from the bit of talking I'm doing, a lot of people do not know how to tease those apart very well. I mean, to me, they're, maybe for most of us here, that's an obvious separation. But I tend to run into a commingling.
You tend to what?
I run into a commingling that if I say someone is factually incorrect, I'm calling them a liar,
Oh, I see.
versus
Yeah,
what
yeah,
Duff is trying to say is, no, all we're trying to focus on is what are the facts in the situation? We're going to leave you alone.
He doesn't have all the information and he made a decision,
Correct.
basically. Okay.
And I would also say that whether or not it's intentional or not, if someone like repeatedly misrepresents the facts on an issue, even after being told, even after the mistake is pointed out like multiple times, and they have access to information that would show them their mistake, and they're still saying this stuff, like whether or not it's intentional or not, they're still spreading misinformation. They're demonstrating themselves to not be a reliable, trustworthy source of information. Whether it's intentional or not, it might not matter.
Which gets into verify and other things that are in the tenets of the pledge. So again, I'll go back and because I know we need to wrap up. I am reachable through the organization. I'm on the organization's Facebook page. I'm on Facebook. I can give you my.
Do you have business cards?
I don't have business cards.
You wrote your name down, didn't you, on that
Can you
list?
spell your name? Your name
Sure.
is-
It's DUFF.
Or should the
It is on
attendance
that
sheet
list, yes.
with the email address?
The email address is
You'll make copies of that and send that to all of us?
DYER.
DYER. Feel free to call me. This is one of the things I tell people that I train on a daily basis is I can't think of every objection you're going to get, and you need an answer to every objection you're going to get. You may not be able to answer it in the moment. You may not be able to get back to that person and answer it later. But the next time you get it, you should have an answer. And if you're uncomfortable figuring that answer out, happy to help.
A great way to get more suggestions is to post them in the Ohio Pro-Truth Pledge Advocates group. If you have questions
Yep.
that you want
That's
answers,
a better way than calling me, actually, but I'm
So
happy
you'll-
to talk to you anytime
you'll get a lot of crowdsourced responses.
By going where, Glenn?
on the
Ohio
Facebook page.
Pro-Truth Pledge Advocates group, Facebook group. So that's a good way of getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, you'll probably get better answers than me. But I'll be able to differentiate between an actual objection to the pitch that you're making or did I make the person feel uncomfortable or not? And, I can help with little detail sales stuff like that.
What do you sell?
I teach people how to sell life, disability, and long-term care.
So I thought of a little twist.
Do we want to finish adjourn the meeting so that folks can start
So-
heading out because we're.
Yes. So at this point, we do want to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much for coming.
Oh,
Really
yeah,
appreciate it.
outstanding job, Doug.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
We are
Thank you.
very fortunate to have top level sales expertise. Thank you
So
very
at this
much.
point, Mary and Michael were going to get together to just remind you about that, to talk about presenting to the West Ripple Group.
I'm gonna turn over.
What's the World Progressive Alliance, WPA? Yes.
Steph, what's your phone number?
Thank you.
614. Thank you. You would come back.
Under 344.
And then you know.
Thanks for watching.